that felt that hopelessness of basically being faced with the prospect of just everything that they worked for to that point just disappearing. And I'm sure he has. I'm sure he.
Well, when you say that, what I think of is like how certain situations come and you can't handle them. Like you don't know what to do. The hopelessness. And I have a quote on page 40. So it's pretty much, it's like the quote of it's a concept of the tension of opposites, and it says life is a series of pulls back and forth. You want to do one thing, but you are bound to do something else. Something hurts you, yet you know it shouldn't. You take certain things for granted, even when you know you should never take anything for granted. And it's kind of like where we don't take things seriously, and we think the least of something happening, right? And we want it, and once that happens, we want to change it, but sometimes it's too late.
Then I have a question for you. Do you have something to finish?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, with that quote on that page,
not much, but while I was reading this book, like I felt many emotions while reading this book, like ranging from happiness to sadness, like making connections to my life, like just basically the same book as last time I read, Monster Calls, is about like similar tradition, like how Connor's mother has disease and all that, and Connor's always with him there. Just similar to that, like how our families always sticks up while your happiness and gayness. Your family's always there.
About what the quote that you mentioned earlier. At the end of that page, Morrie says that in the end, from what page was that again?
Page 40.
Yes, I remember reading this.
Oh, love wins. Love
Yes.
always wins. Yeah.
So Mitch asks him, so which side wins? Whether it's what you want to do or what you believe that you should do. Morrie says, love wins, love always wins. What do you think he means by this?
I guess it's kind of like the quote that you brought out earlier.
So, the
Like,
most important. Yes, but what do you think he defines love as? Just love as in loving other people, or is it love as in loving oneself and one's life?
Everything.
I think it's all, but most importantly, I think it's loving yourself. Like not giving up on yourself and having confidence within yourself and thinking that it's all gonna be right. Like don't be positive, be optimistic about your life. Like no one can be too sure about what's gonna happen.
And relating to what we were talking
Again,
about
like
earlier.
the tension of opposites, right?
Relating to what we were talking about earlier, do you believe that today's society and culture teach students or just young people, even that older generation, to be happy with oneself, to as Morrie mentioned, the most important thing in life is to learn how to give out love and to let it go. Do you think it teaches people to do that, or do you think that should be changed? Or do you think that it is wrong or it is right?
Like loving yourself.
Yes.
First, you are loving.
Do you believe that today's culture, modern culture and society, teaches people to be true to oneself, to give out love and to let it come in?
Yes.
I think it's a yes or a no. It really depends, I guess, on the person. I mean, there's different situations, and yeah, I mean, I think sometimes people get a bit selfish. So I think today's society is a bit selfish, but we are also like giving at the same. We also give at times too. But I guess it's like it really depends. And something that I consider like of great importance in this book is the reference to the hibiscus flower. So do you guys know how a hibiscus looks like? No. Okay. So I actually have it at home. It's a bouquet. So it's a hibiscus. And basically, I think the hibiscus refers to it's like a huge symbol, and it refers to Morrie in his state, in his life. And it refers to his life, of how the delicacy of this flower, how delicate it is, just like how fragile his life is. And slowly how his life is withering. And there is a quote in the book, I'll share that later, but yeah, I think that it's a huge symbol. And it feels as if a flower can't stay forever, it'll only die one day. And I think that's how his life is being described too. And throughout the book there are many indications of using the hibiscus plant towards his life. And his life is slowly deteriorating. And I think, yeah, and there's a quote in that. It's on page, on the first page, as you know, it's the very first page where he's sitting in the study room and you can look out the window and there's the hibiscus. But then also on page 10, but it says, but my old professor had made a profound decision. Once he began to construct the day he came out of the doctor's office with the sword hanging over his head. He said, do I wither up and disappear, or do I make the best of my life, of my time left? And I think that withering part kind of refers to the hibiscus and how it relates to his life deteriorating and everything. So, yeah. So, do you guys, do you agree with this? Do you think that this is a symbolization of his life? And it shows how his life is slowly withering.
I agree with the saying that, well, let me say that again. People tend to reflect on their life when they're nearing death. They start to think about, am I living how I wanted to?
That's the thing, it feels so weird knowing, like you're reading and then Morrie knows that he's dying and it's like, you're feeling the same thing. It's like you're him. You're in his shoes. You feel so close to it, and it's like you're facing the same thing too. And it's like you wish you were in that scene in real life, and that's the most sad part about it. Is that
wish you were dying?
Well, no, like
you wish that you were in that state of mind. That clarity.
Yeah. Sorry, but yeah, and I think that's the most like devastating part is that this is a true story, and yeah.
Well, as Morrie mentions later in page 12, he wants to prove that dying is not synonymous with useless. He wants to, as you said earlier, make as much use of his life before he dies to do not to do everything that he's not able to do. Some people tend to, but he wants to just
like spend the most time that he can with his family members.
He wants to teach people as well. He wants people to be aware of such things. As he mentions later, he says that people will come to him to talk about the meaning of life and what he's going through, death. He says to Mitch that people see him as a bridge between life and death, somewhere between, and they want him to tell them what to pack.
And that's the thing, is like I'm happy that you went onto that show. I don't remember what it's called, but I'm happy that you went onto that show and you chose to speak on it, right?
Do you believe that people watching that show took it to heart? Do you think that his words stayed with their minds?
I think so. I
think so.
I do. Just if I were to watch that, knowing that he was dying, and often people give up on their life, and they think that that's it. I'm gonna go sit in a corner and just wait till my death. But I would be inspired if I was there, and I was inspired reading it, and it was really enlightening and everything.
No, like same thing as you said about the show. The show is called like Guidelines. Yeah.
Okay, so do you want to wrap up?
Well, let me just say one thing. You remember how Mitch's uncle was dying from, what was it? Prostate cancer?
Yeah.
The last words that in the book that he mentioned to Mitch before he died was to please take care of he look over his children as they go to school the next year. How do you think this differed from Morrie, who wishes to talk about and help people who will eventually reach this state of life, and he also shows concern, expresses concern for people going through difficulty in life? How do you think this differs?
I think that I don't think either of them were wrong in saying so. But I think that Morrie was more thinking of the world. He was thinking of saying it could happen with anyone, right? So there's a possibility of anything happening. So
What I wanted to mention was Morrie. He talks about making the most of your life before you die. Well, Mitch's uncle, he simply he feels powerless, so he simply tries to push his problems onto his nephew. Do you agree with this?
Yeah.
You believe he does?
Yeah.
Do you think that that's the norm? That's what people tend to do when they're nearing death? Do you
Yeah.
think that's normal? Do you think that is what Morrie tries to promote, that kind of thinking?
Yeah, I think so.
Think so?
Yeah.
So Morrie is trying to promote the idea of when you're dying, you should press your problems onto others.
Not like press your problems, but like keep it to yourself. Like
He wasn't keeping to himself.
yeah. Also like try to like have someone to try to let someone know about your feelings and all that. Like, not like don't be like.
okay, so basically my final point is that I think I think back to our article with the Buck Creek Canyon of how there were changes that occurred, like when he came back, it was vandalized and everything. And I think that often, like, we leave ourselves from different situations to move on in life. We have a new phase, there's a new chapter in our lives. But there's times when we return back to that same place, and changes have occurred. A transformation has occurred, and sometimes it's something that we don't like. But it all depends on really how we handle it and what we do. What we do to change it, pretty much.
Okay.
And it really depends upon ourselves.
So that is fine.
Yeah, go. Oh my god.